Okay, I think I'll go ahead and get started. Nice to see so many folks joining us today for the March MCRC Insights Exchange. We have a really great program lined up for you today, agenda today, as we wanted to take this time to do a bit of a deep dive and a virtual tour with all of you to go through our robust suite of resources to give you a good snapshot of all the different projects and programs across our website, member portal, sponsor portal. Just so for those of you, whether you are new to the MCURC, welcome, or have been with us for many years, this is a good opportunity to just have that reset and give everyone a chance to learn both what is existing within our portfolio and what is maybe new and added to our portfolio within the collaborative opportunities. So we're going to be covering some overviews on research, education, innovation, and other communication tools and community engagement. We extended the time today to go up to 90 minutes. We plan to have the first hour of a lot of several of us talking at you and giving a lot of updates. And we encourage if anyone has any questions, to put them in the chat as we're going along, so we can collect them and try to answer them in the chat as we go. And then we will save that last 30 minutes for anyone who is able to stay on, wants a little bit more of interactive Q&A discussion time. That we will make ourselves available to have some Q&A at the end. So that's the plan for today. Really happy to have you all here. I'm going to turn it over to Abby to facilitate the research overview. And Abby Fermartino is our new MCRC Research Program Manager, who many of you have been introduced to over these last couple months, hardly, that she has been fully onboarded. So we're very happy to have her on the CIA side. And for those who don't know me as well, Alison Reiter, Director of Health and Sustainability Programs at the CIA and co-director of the MCRC, along with Sophie on the Stanford side. So over to you, Abby.
Great. Thank you, Allison. Yes, I'm Abby Fermartino, and I'm excited to share this research with you. I am going to now share my screen. And okay, let me just get this set up on my side here. Everyone see my screen?
Yep, looks good, Abby.
Excellent. Okay, great. So I wanted to start with just the overview of the research model. So some of you are very familiar with this. Some of you may be new to MCURC. And so starting with the phrase on this slide, MCURC's pioneered a new behavioral research model to scale innovative research projects from one university across MCURC. And the hallmark of the research model is really these multi-site studies where campus dining halls are leveraged as living laboratories. So starting with that one pilot study and scaling it to multiple universities means that there's ability to capture greater data points that cumulatively contribute to really groundbreaking evidence. And these new insights occur through collaboration across the MCURC network. So this is a differentiator in the research model, and it makes it really unique and I think powerful. The projects, these multi-site projects, come to life through collaboration across faculty experts, dining operators, nutrition sustainability managers, renowned research collaborators. And this means that each project is conducted with a really broad understanding of the food system through the expertise of the project members. And another success element that I see is that this collaboration happens across members who share the motivation to really positively change the food system by better understanding and shifting the diets of college and university age students. The goal of the multi-site research method that MCURC uses is to develop scalable applied solutions that promote healthy, sustainable, and delicious food choices. And before I begin sharing some of these examples of multi-site research that we have on the website and that has been published, Sophie, would you like to add anything to this?
No, I think you're doing a phenomenal job.
Okay, thank you. Thanks so much for that. Okay, great. So let's dig into this. So as of today, we have 5 academic publications on an MCURC website. The MCURC's produced multi-site research. And you can see if you go to the website, to the resources and to research, at the very bottom, there's a link to the academic publications. So that's where you can find more about all of these fabulous studies. Today, I'm going to present 2 of the studies that are food waste focused. And then one of the studies, I will pass it over to Jackie Bertoldo, who's one of the authors on the taste focused label intervention. And then we'll hear from Charlie Hoff virtually. She recorded a great 2-minute little video about the food print seminar study. And then I'll share some slides about that. And then I'll finish this research section by discussing some current research that's in the pipeline, as well as some that's in development. So I will begin with this food waste management practices and barriers to progress study. This was published in 2022. So it's one of the newer MCURC academic publications. This survey project was developed by researchers at the Harvard Teach Chan School of Public Health, and it was developed in partnership with Harvard University Dining Services and their Food Law and Policy Clinic. This is a great example of really diverse project team. They gathered feedback from staff and directors at 57 US universities, 51 of which were MCURC member institutions. And the goal of the project was to understand the state of current food waste production, food waste management techniques, and to identify opportunities to both reduce and repurpose wasted food across the US university food system. And what the study authors found is that a huge barrier here is that there's no standardized method across the US university food system to measure food waste and to track the impact of the different strategies that they may be using. So the authors proposed the adoption of a food waste quantification standard, like the food loss and waste accounting and reporting standard that was developed by World Resources Institute, UNEP, many other stakeholders. So this is one that's used in other industries, I think larger, maybe CPG industries. And this would be really interesting to understand what that would look like if there were one kind of standardized method used. It could be really, I think there'd be a better ability to measure and track the strategies that so many people are using right now. What this study also shed light on is all of the great strategies that are being used in these 57 universities and sort of tracking the prevalence of them across the institution. So you can sort of see the efforts to reduce food waste and then repurpose food waste. So it's a great overview study. The next food waste study that we have is a MCURC academic publication. It was on food choice and waste in university dining commons. And this was a study led by principal investigator Nell Putnam-Farr, who's on the call from Rice University, and several other members of the research and education working group. The study was published in 2021, and it analyzed the motivations to choose and consume or not dishes served in all you care to eat dining environments from 5 participating colleges and universities. So the investigation collectively uncovered waste behavior of over 700 college students who self-reported on close to 1,500 different food choices, dishes that they had. And before I share the top takeaways of the study, I want to show this acknowledgement page because this is a wonderful indicator of the uniqueness of MCURC research. You can see collective authorship from faculty members, sustainability coordinators, dietitians, the dining operators are involved here. So you can see that you don't have to be an academic faculty member to contribute to MCURC research, even ones that are published in academic journals. And I think that this is a fabulous opportunity from wherever your vantage point is within the food system that you can contribute to generating new knowledge and insights that can change the food system. All right, so this research on food choice and waste led to some really interesting and applicable insights in which we look at how do you they looked at boosting confidence in food choices as a way to reduce food waste. And boosting confidence can happen in a couple ways. The 2 that they identified as top key ways were to increase the, familiarity with the food. Since foods that were more familiar to students were wasted less. And then second, reducing the portion size for new dishes where there's an item that may not be as familiar. Reducing the portion size showed that you could reduce food waste. I think this is also offering some interesting evidence between the relationship of food waste reduction and the menus of change principle, reduce portions, which also supports better health outcomes. So here in this case, you can reduce food waste and support better health outcomes. And the study authors developed some really great social media communication resources that are available when you go to the website and visit that academic publication page. You can see there's infographics and guidance on how to showcase the findings with some key talking points. Nell, do you want to add anything to this study just since you're on the call?
I would just say that the two things that I would add were, one, this was a really nice example of, as you pointed out, the collaboration among different groups. And one of the things that we tried really hard to do to make that work was to reduce the burden on operators. And so all you had to do as an operator for this was to basically put up cue card little table toppers with QR codes. And the survey was done entirely on mobile. We actually had people take photographs of their dishes. And so it was a really interesting, just from a methodology perspective, great way for us to try out a new methodology that worked at a bunch of different places in a bunch of different ways. And then the other thing that I would say is we really tried to come at this from a very non-judgmental perspective in order to avoid the bias that students have. We know that they want to avoid waste. They all say that they don't want to waste. They recognize this as a problem. And so we actually really didn't talk about this as food waste at all. We talked about this as understanding your choices, how you make choices, what you like and don't like about the food that you've taken in order to understand the underlying behaviors that drive waste, rather than having it be a survey about waste specifically.
I love that. I think that taking the perspective of increasing their food literacy in a way about why they might be making their choices and how to help them make good choices, and as a consequence of that, then reduce the food waste. So I think that's really excellent. Thanks for that additional color, Nell. And in the chat, please, if you've used these resources or read the studies or have any reflections on them, please add it in the chat. I'd love to see if these have been, if you're familiar with these studies, or if just what your reflections are on this. I'm going to move forward to the DISH study and pass this over to Jackie to share her perspective on these studies. I'll keep sharing my slides here.
Thanks, Abby. Love talking about this study. This was such a fun project to work on. And again, another example of the incredible collaboration across academics and operators, bringing lots of diverse perspectives to the work. So if you go to the next slide, just to acknowledge the incredible team, many of whom are on this call that were involved in bringing this study to life. Next slide, please. So the question that we wanted to answer, and just to say, to reflect on what Abby was describing about the pilot study at one institution and then scaling it to multiple institutions. So just to make a plug that the original study was done at Stanford University as a pilot and published, and then we wanted to replicate this at multiple institutions. And so the DISH study was when we were taking this concept, this phenomenon we had observed at Stanford, and we were replicating at other institutions. And what we wanted to understand is whether people would take more vegetables or be more likely to take vegetables when we're using taste-focused language to describe them, health-focused language to describe them, or just basic labels. And so why do we want to know this? Well, in a lot of the prior literature, many of the interventions in food service environments focus on emphasizing how healthy something is as a way to encourage people to eat it. But some of previous research at Stanford had indicated that perhaps there might be some negative associations between taste and health. And so we thought, well, why don't we just focus on how delicious these foods are and describe them this way? So this gives you some examples with different vegetables, all the same dish, all the same recipes, but just changing the label and changing what they were named. Next slide, please. And so what we found is kind of what we expected to find, which is that taste-focused labels increase the selection of vegetables quite substantially, particularly over healthy labels, but even over just basic labels. So compared to health-focused labels, the taste-focused labels increase selection across the institutions that participated by about 29%. And then we also were curious to know, okay, well, they're taking more vegetables, but are they actually eating those vegetables? And so we did some additional analysis that found that compared to the health-focused labels, when we use the taste-focused labels, we actually increased consumption of the food by 39% as well. Next slide, please. And so here is the publication that came out of this work. Thank you so much to the institutions that collaborated that are here on the screen. We had a number of both academics and operators from each of these institutions that were heavily involved in kind of designing the protocol, executing it, and then writing up this paper. Next slide. And so we don't want to just do research just to do research or to publish in academic journals. We really wanted to bring this full circle and bring it back to the operators. And so we work collaboratively with the participants of the study, as well as our research partner, the World Resources Institute and the Better Buying Lab, and the MCURC team, to come up with the Edgy Veggies Toolkit. And so this is really intended to translate the findings of this research for operators and to provide tools and resources that will allow operators to apply this taste-focused labeling in their own operations. And so there is at the sparktools.org, which is a Stanford site, there is an interactive tool that you can use to help generate delicious names for your foods. And then also on the Menus of Change University Research Collaborative website, you'll also see a PDF of the Edgy Veggies Toolkit available. And one of the cool things to imagine is if all the member institutions were to implement this taste-focused labeling, which you have to call it something. So it just takes a little bit more intention and thought around really emphasizing the deliciousness of the healthy foods. Across the MCURC membership, this would translate to about 40,000 more vegetable servings per day, just with this one intervention. Next slide, please.
I think that's all of your slides.
That's it. Okay, fantastic. So we'll leave it with that. So fantastic example of the research that has gone through the entire research model of the MCURC. And I really encourage everyone to check out the Edgy Veggies Toolkit so that we can really accelerate the adoption of this across the MCURC. Thanks, Abby.
Great. Thank you so much, Jackie. That's wonderful. And I see Christina is giving some praise for the Edgy Veggie Toolkit. It'd be great to see if anyone else has used this. I find it really exciting and interesting. And yeah, so great. Thank you for that study. It's a great example of how the research turned into academic publication in this really usable toolkit that's free and accessible. Okay, so we're going to finish the past research by looking at one of the education-focused studies, which was the impact of a scalable multi-campus food print seminar on college students' dietary intake. And again, we have this great video that Charlie did. So let me know if you see, do you now see Charlie, the video? Okay, let's do it. I'll make it full screen in a second.
Hi, everybody. My name's Charlie, she, her. I completed my undergrad at Stanford in chemical engineering and am currently a master's student in community health and prevention research and have had the amazing privilege to work with MCURC since my first year of college. And I really regret being unable to be there synchronously with everybody, but eager to briefly share out on this study I had the joy of getting to participate in. The food print study was basically trying to investigate to what extent would a 10-week class that explores the connections between food and multiple planetary boundaries like water use, biodiversity loss, land use, how would that impact students' choices after participating in this 10-week one-unit class? And this study ran at UCLA, UC Davis, and at Stanford. And in summary, we found it did impact students' consumption. Students amongst the class cohort who regularly consumed ruminant animal meat on a weekly basis significantly decreased the greenhouse gas emissions of their eating, namely by reducing ruminant meat consumption. We saw that students across the board ate more vegetable servings each week. And we also saw that students reduced their sugar-sweetened beverage intake, which was really interesting because that was actually not a core component of this class nor any of the units' focus. In summary, just really grateful to have gotten to participate on this paper, and with this incredible cohort of scholars and researchers and actors in the food systems. Christopher Gardner headed up the course, and fellow student Benji Reed Malaganio and I had the chance to teach several lectures of it. And after the course concluded, we went on to continue to teach it 5 more times over the years. And that was such a rewarding educational experience. And we all learned so much from the students, and it's been awesome to longitudinally follow what those students have then gone to do in food systems and beyond. Thank you so much for hearing out our presentation. Hi, everybody.
Oh, sorry. Okay, great. Let me go back to this might take me a second here. Okay, go back to my slide. So what I want to do here is just share a couple of so this was of what Charlie was presenting. This was the Foodprint Seminar curriculum outline, just to give you a sense of what they learned and how that impacted their diet. And as Charlie mentioned, there was a significant decrease in dietary carbon footprint among the students as compared to the comparison group. There was the improved intake of vegetables by 4.7 servings per week, and the reduction of sugar sweetened beverages by 0.4 servings. I love that sort of unexpected indirect consequence of that education on their dietary and beverage choices here. So, and just for a shout out and consistency, showing the participating universities and acknowledging everyone who participated in that foodprint study. So I'm just going to finish my time here by sharing some of the active projects in the pipeline. Charlie is continuing research on the stakeholder barriers and opportunities to teaching food system courses, and she's refined that study to look at land-grant universities and explore the prevalence of food justice and sort of equity courses and in food system curriculum at those universities. And she will be sharing some early findings in an upcoming research and education working group call, either in April or May. I'm sure we're all excited to see the results of this year's Plant Forward Opportunity Report, which will be published in May. And then there'll be a big presentation around that for the Menus of Change conference in June at Hyde Park. And then we have Jackie's University Procurement Planetary Health Study, which I won't speak to. Maybe Jackie, you can have a moment to do that for yourself. And we have 2 studies that are plug and play research models that were from Dr. Peggy Policastro at Rutgers conducted the initial pilot studies, and now these are soon to be available. So we're putting the finishing touches on the plug and play research model, which means that they're set up to do. We just need a city certificate from your university, and then you can conduct the research. Cumulatively, we will then analyze the results of the multi-site study and present in the fall. And then last slide is just that we do have some projects that are in development that I want to also mention. We have the 2.0 version of the Food for Climate menu labeling study, and we're in the process of really refining and developing that scope and identifying some key project team members. So if you want to learn more about that, please let me know. The Swap Meet Athlete study is in proposal review, and in the April 5th Research and Education Working Group call, Christopher Gardner and the students involved in that initial pilot Stanford study are going to present their proposal for MCURC participation. So check that out, or if you want more information, let me know. And then we're very early stage working on developing an idea with accelerator chefs with Matt and Christina. So I just wanted to put that out there, and then some potential sponsored research as well. So if you have any questions for me, here is my email. And I would be happy to speak more with you. And I hope that we can work on some research together, and I'll pass it maybe back to Allison.
Yeah, thank you, Abby. Really great overview of our research initiatives. And wanted to clarify the questions in the chat I see from Gesina and Mike. Were those questions about the seminar, like this seminar, the MCURC Insights Exchange, or the Foodprint seminar that Charlie gave the overview of? Definitely, if it's about this seminar, yes, we record and share the link and make it available. If it's about the Foodprint seminar, Sophie, do you know the answer to that, if that is publicly available?
That's good clarification. To my knowledge, it is sort of been a template that universities have offered at, thanks Gazina for clarifying,
Yeah, thanks.
have offered at their universities, but I don't, part of what I can share is that actually had inspired a study that we are kind of in the middle of that uses an open source online course, Edible Education, that UC Berkeley provides, that definitely is available to anyone. All the videos are online, and I think it was in part because this original version of that study was more kind of traditional academic classes only available for students enrolled at that school. So to my knowledge, that content is not yet an open source kind of Coursera type of course, but I know that again it's related to courses like Edible Education, and we can certainly circle back with others. But yeah, appreciate
Great.
it.
Thanks,
Good
Sophie.
question and fun idea.
Thanks. And so transitioning, keeping on this conversation around education, I'm now going to share a little bit about some educational initiatives within the MCRC, including both the Student Fellows Program and also some of our industry programming at the CIA with the Venues of Change Summit and the fall annual meeting for the MCRC coming up. So first, I'd like to pass the mic over to Jessica Van Lee from Rutgers, who's our MCRC Student Fellows co-manager, along with Naila Verawala from the CIA, who was not able to make today's call. She is studying abroad in Singapore this semester, but Jessica and Naila have been working this year to continue our fellows program. And so Jessica's going to share a bit of a report out of how that's all going this year. So Jessica, over to you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for the wonderful introduction, Allison. So just to give a little information about the Fellows Program, it's a network of students from MCURC member colleges and universities across the globe who come together to share data and resources about healthy, sustainable, and delicious food in university dining halls. The requirements to be a student fellow are simply to be actively engaged and attend the monthly meetings that we have to share out about a project that they're working on related to all the menus of change principles in university dining. If you're at a university that doesn't have a fellows program yet, there are really 3 pathways that you can follow to start one if you're interested. The first is dining services or sustainability internship. With this, the student who's already an employee or intern of a paid dining services or sustainability program, or they could be hired as one, and they could add MCURC fellow to their internship title and responsibilities. The second would be through academic credit. A faculty PI can provide a student academic or research credit. And the final is volunteer, where students can participate in a volunteer capacity. So a few updates for goals that we had for 2022 to 2023. One was to increase fellows participation and leadership in the research and education working group meetings. We're excited to say we'll have one fellow presenting at the meeting in April. Another thing we've started is the fellows features in the monthly MCURC newsletters. So if you read those newsletters, you see little blurbs about a fellow each month, and they share about their experience and projects that they're working on as a fellow. Our second goal was to onboard more fellows and expand the fellows network globally and domestically. We have new active schools this year, including Boston University and the University of Reading. And we also plan outreaching in April to get more participation in the upcoming semesters. Our third goal was to provide more mentorship opportunities for fellows. And what we've done is during our monthly meetings, we've had different presenters from the MCURC network who speak out about their work and experiences relating to MCURC and any other work they have relating to food and sustainability. Some of the MCUR schools that have current actively engaged fellows are Boston University, University of Reading, Rutgers, the CIA, University of North Texas. And like I said previously, we plan out to reach to the fellows and advisors seeking more participation in upcoming semesters. And finally, I'm just going to share out about a few projects that have either been done in the past or are currently being worked on. So one current project is Andrea at Boston University is working on a reusable packaging product to allow people to take food home in reusable containers. And she's the fellow who will be presenting at the April Research Working Group meeting. So if you want to hear more about that, please attend that meeting. And a past project that was done that was actually previously mentioned was the Farmhouse Fumes one, which got put into a plug and play research toolkit. And that one looked at college students' understanding of sustainable protein sources. So if you have any questions or want to onboard a fellow, please reach out to myself or Naila, and we'd be happy to bring more fellows into the program. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jessica, for that awesome overview and just for yours and Nyla's leadership this year of continuing to grow and strengthen the fellows program. Really awesome to see that. Thank you. Okay, so now I want to talk a little bit about what we are orchestrating over here at the CIA within our strategic initiatives group with the Menus of Change Summit now going into its 11th year. And before I dig a little bit more into giving you a bit of a snapshot of the upcoming program for this June in an effort to promote, and encourage you all to consider attending and sending representation from your institutions to attend. Wanted to first give Rupa Bhattacharya just a chance to say a few words about some of our strategic initiatives as a whole and about the Menus of Change Summit, in addition to our Global Plant Forward Culinary Summit, which is more immediately around the corner in April, and there's still opportunity to register and participate in that summit as well if you're interested and available. So Rupa, just a few minutes from you. Rupa is our Executive Director of Strategic Initiatives here at the CIA.
Hi, everybody. I just got a notification that you'd spotlighted my video and I thought I had frozen. Hello, pleasure to see all of you. Yeah, I just want to talk a little bit about what we're doing with our conferences and specifically around what we're doing generally with our strategic initiatives team. Essentially, one of the things that we've realized over in terms of thought leadership is that in a lot of ways, people really know the basics of the science of, what folks should be eating and what's healthy and, what's good for the climate and all that. What they really has been sort of a missing piece from the work that we've been doing in a lot of ways has been that element of desire, capturing the element of desire, but also the practicalities of implementation. And so we've decided this year to take a huge split between, not a huge split, but a larger split than has historically been the case between Global Plant Forward and Menus of Change, where Global Plant Forward has, to a certain extent been MOC West, right? It's been like, yeah, if you can go to Global Plant Forward or you can go to MOC, basically they're talking about plant forward eating and they're talking about sort of the challenges of implementation. We decided to split that out a little bit more distinctly. So in part to take advantage of the culinary facilities that we have over at Copia, but in part also to really just delineate the kind of work that we want to be doing, right? So Global Plant Forward this year, and we're really excited about it. We've got great people coming through. The former head of fermentation at NOMA is coming through to do a special panel on fermentation. It's his first appearance in the US, public speaking appearance in the US since he left the fermentation lab, like pretty exciting stuff. But Global Plant Forward this year is going to be essentially a deep dive into both the culture and culinary aspects of cooking plant forward food, right? Like, so you can make vegetables delicious. We all know that at this point. How do you make people want vegetables? How do you make people say, it's my birthday, I want to have a really beautiful salad, as opposed to, it's my birthday, I want to have a giant steak, right? Like, how do you build that element of desire? And so we've got some great speakers. We've got a former writer of mine who wrote a piece that some of you may have seen a year or two ago that was about the rise in tinned fish brands, like the cool tinned fish brands. And the title was, How Did Sardines Become a Hot Girl Food? So she'll be moderating a conversation. Because, so yeah, fundamentally, like, one of the ways that we're going to get people to like stuff, right, is by making it hot girl food. We're going to make it desirable and cool and special to have this food as opposed to a chore. This goes back to the Edgy Veggies toolkit. This goes back to the naming things. All of these things tie into how do we build that desire? How do you build innate love in people for those, so that they're like, when they think about celebration, they think, yes, let's go get really sick vegetables. So that's what GPF is going to be, and there are still tickets available, actually. So I think Al just dropped the link in there. I think all of you do get a discount, so the code should be in there as well. And then Menus of Change this year, I think many of you will be there anyway. I'm very excited to see you at. That is going to be a really, again, a deep dive into the implementation side of things. Like, what are the practicalities? What do you call it in the menu? How do you do supply chain? How do you respond when your audience is like, I don't know about this burger, whatever it is. We are doing a panel, the one food. So it's much more broader and it's much more about implementation. And we have Karen Watson, who some of you may know. She led the Michelle Obama Drink Water campaign, talking about bringing marketing strategies to like healthy eating. So really wonderful, dynamic people, incredible lineup. But with Menus of Change, also one of the things that we're doing there, we're doing one panel on food, and it's going to be on the burger. I'm going to take something like the hamburger, which we know isn't going away, right? Like, there could be a universe in which we like pretend that there's never going to be a burger again, but fundamentally people are eating burgers. So how do we meet them? And so we're doing a whole panel on that. Like, and so I think this year you'll really notice a significant difference between the two conferences, both working strategically towards the same end. So I hope to see you at both. And I think that's all from me. Allison, unless there's
Yeah,
something I'm
thanks,
forgetting.
Rupa. Yeah,
Thank you, guys.
very,
Appreciate
very
you.
well said there. Yeah, so definitely for anyone interested in attending Global Plant Forward in April, that is a great culinary focus program. And then menus of change. I think in the interest of time, I'm not going to do a full program review, but we'll drop the program schedule in the chat so you can review it. We're nearly finalized with the program, have a great lineup, as Rupa already shared some names, focusing on the desire and implementation. Sophie will be back on campus and wearing her Food for Climate League hat, talking about the new aquatic foods toolkit that was recently launched. I think that's a great example of a very practical implementation guide for operators. And it's also an exciting time just on campus here in Hyde Park to be engaging a lot of our students and faculty in the summit, and getting people to see the campus and see some of our various gardens and shiitake logs and apiary and other things that our students and faculty are involved with. So with that, going back to the agenda here, before I hand it over to Sophie to cover some other resources available, just also wanted to put in a plug for the annual MCRC all-member meeting, which we have secured the dates and location for. We are very excited that Stanford is going to be hosting, and the dates are October 2nd through 4th. We are also working with our colleagues at UCSF to do some pre-meeting activities on the 2nd. So it'll be a really great whole Bay Area experience there, and we'll be sending out information about registration in early April, so be on the lookout for that. So I know that this is we do get questions quite a bit of how do you make decisions of who to send to what, who should go to menus of change, who should go to the all-member meeting. Obviously in a ideal world, you'd be able to have unlimited resources to send everyone to everything, but we know that that's not the reality. So I don't think anyone has cracked the code on how best to send the right staff to the right places. But hopefully, we see it as menus of change being that really foundational summit that helps lay the groundwork and gives that broad landscape of informational content, inspirational content, networking opportunities. And the annual meeting for the MCRC is going to be much more, focused around the working groups and the projects and the research specific to this group. It's certainly our goal every year at the annual meeting to get at least one representative from all member institutions. I don't think we've quite reached that yet, but we still get a really great turnout at the annual meeting, and encourage you to, to send folks from your team as resources allow. So definitely happy to have continued conversations about how to make some of those decisions amongst your teams. So I think with that, Sophie, I will hand it over to you to continue taking us through more MCRC resources.
Yes, so we are now going to share kind of just a deep dive of resources that are on the MCURC website resources page, aptly named, specifically on the culinary and menu strategy side. So I'm going to actually turn it to my phenomenal colleagues, Chef Matt Ward and Chef Christina Bitondo, to take you through just a sample. There are more total resources than we have time to show you, but it's really just to underscore these are free open source tools that brought together the hive mind of the MCRC and really captured a tremendous amount of lived experience, knowledge, inspiration, and creativity, all toward your shared goals of implementing menus of change principles, advancing plant forward menu options, and beyond. So chefs, over to you.
Thank you, Sophie. Oh, go ahead, Matt.
Go ahead, Christina, you go start off.
All right, so thanks, Sophie and Allison. So I'm going to start by talking about the globally inspired plant forward recipe resource. And as Sophie mentioned, there are so many great resources available through the Menus of Change website that can be utilized. At Stanford, we strive to provide ethically diverse menus throughout our core menu. These dishes contain complex flavors that add value to the plant forward dish and create an enjoyable dining experience for the students.
As we know, chefs are naturally drawn to a myriad of cuisines and embrace the cultural differences that highlight so many delicious culinary treats. Kitchens and universities both contain diverse populations. And we have found at Stanford that there's no better way to make a student feel welcomed or less homesick by creating a dish that reminds them of home. And we know this comes in many forms. So I'm going to talk a little bit about 4 brand concepts that we have at Stanford. The first one is called Star Ginger, where we collaborate with our consulting chef, MyFam. And this focuses on the fresh flavors of Southeast Asia. Fun laksa is served, vegetarian noodle dishes, and rice dishes. And these are some of the students' favorites. And it's really an area where they don't focus so much on meat being served as the entree. So it's a very easy way to introduce plant-forward dishes. The second concept we have is Cardinal Sage. It's our Oaxacan themed station with consulting chef Ileana de la Vega. This brings the flavors of Oaxaca alive, and we work closely with her to create a burrito bowl focused on meat as a condiment and really highlighting vegetables. The third is Red Skillet Kitchen with consulting chef Tanya Holland. It's our modern soul food theme. So we focus here on grain bowls that we built out of black-eyed peas, grains such as fonio, to really embrace the plant-forward dishes and what could be a meat-heavy cuisine. And this has been well received at Stanford. The last one is our newest concept, Saffron Mediterranean Kitchen, created by our own chef Tammy Lynn and myself, which focuses on plant-forward Mediterranean dishes. So we make fresh pastas with nut-free pesto made from sunflower seeds. We have a very popular Metzi bar, which really showcases plants, legumes, and grains at the forefront. All of these brands are very popular locations and great enhancement to our already globally inspired core menu. In addition to the student menus, we're lucky to have diverse staff, and we have asked them to participate in sharing recipes from their families, foods that create fond memories from their cultures, and we publish them on recipe cards that we share among the staff with QR codes that translate into multiple languages. Some of these, of course, have made it on the menu because they're so delicious. These resources that are on the website share a number of very creative and delicious recipes that can help use as a valuable tool to enhance menus or inspire ideas. Pat?
Thanks, Christina. And I'm just going to go share my screen real quick and kind of talk about 2 of the other resources that are available to everybody to look at. The first one is the Protein Flip resource. Pretty much it kind of gives you an overview of the how, what, why, and how to lessen the amount of animal proteins in dishes that you come up with to serve in your operations. It's a great resource. It's got recipes at the end. I know here at UNT, whenever we come up with recipes and menus and whatnot, we use this resource to kind of look at our main entrees on our lines and say, you know, what percentage of animal protein to vegetables or whole grains and beans and legumes can we go? So pretty much a standard here at UNT is a 70-30, 70-30, 30 being the protein, the animal protein in a dish and whatnot. So we've had some really great success with that. So it's one of these resources that we definitely share with our teams, new team members that come in to take a look at these resources and kind of get them into the MCURC frame of mind of how we do business on the campus and whatnot. The second resource that I'm going to share is the olive oil project. Let me stop share for a minute here to get to that one. And this was a really great project that I had a lot of fun with. I know my team had a lot of fun with doing the research on this because it was a real hands-on project for us. This one kind of gives you an overview of olive oil and how to use olive oil in your in all of your operations and whatnot. And this one really gave us the history of olive oil and the different flavor profiles of olive oil and when to use it in certain applications and when not to use it in other applications. So the way we serve all of our vegetable, we do all of our vegetable cookery now at UNT with olive oil. We use olive oil in all of it. We don't use butter. We don't use margarine. We don't use any of those other things that traditionally that they would come into. So the greatest thing for us, we did this project during the pandemic. So this was really a great opportunity for our teams to get together. And I know Christina will agree with me that we were able to really include them into something that we could get together virtually and kind of discuss how we wanted to go about this one. So the really great resources you'll see, all of these really great sauces and sauces that are here listed on here, very multicultural and whatnot. So it kind of broadened our vegetable cookery and sauce cookery to kind of be very, very inclusive and diverse as we go through and make our menus and whatnot. So that was the biggest thing for us, is that we were able to include a lot of our staff in here, and it was a really great learning opportunity for them, moving forward and whatnot. So so this is a really great resource to kind of kind of see what opportunities you can have in your operations, whether it be in residential dining or in your catering, how you can use olive oil and which ways you can use it, in your operations. So
phenomenal. Can't thank you both enough. This is truly just an appetizer of the amazing menu of culinary-based resources on the MCURC resource page. There is a question here for Chef Matt. You can respond to that in the chat. In the interest of time, we're going to move things right along. We warned you, this is rapid fire, but this is truly just to make it as possible, as likely as possible, for you to be able to truly get the most out of the MCURC, the existing treasure trove of resources, opportunities that are on the horizon, and we hope that you see the full array and find the immediate actionability of these resources in your operations. Before I hand it to Jackie Bertoldo again, actually, for the collective impact side, this is on our third pillar of innovation. So it's research, education, and innovation. I actually do want to just briefly piggyback on the olive oil study to say that project is really intended now for us as a template. It was focused on the olive oil and kind of plant forward sauce discoveries, but take your pick of any MCURC, any menus of change principle. You could even use one of my favorite and yet most underloved resources in the collaborative, which is this self-assessment tool. This is actually a gap analysis for yourself to simply go principle by principle and say, how are we doing? Strengths, opportunities, action timeline, and really kind of, again, kind of assess yourself. Where are you at with respect to these different principles? And I say this because if any of you in the course of doing that come across a principle where you feel like, we really need more menu innovation, more ideas, more inspiration in, X principle, come to us. And that may be the root or the seed for a potential MCURC accelerator lab project, where we call upon all of these amazing chefs and culinary leaders across the collaborative when we say, let's put our heads together, same kind of format. And of course, we can also find some phenomenal mission aligned sponsors, as we did in this case with the International Olive Oil Council, to help make this possible. And I just wanted to say that kind of it's really intended as this blank canvas, and we're excited about Accelerator Lab potential really to build upon that. So Jackie, over to you for a little bit of an overview on Collective Impact, one of our most innovative initiatives. And then we will, before we wrap up, we will have time for a little bit of communication 101. So we may need to keep this a little bit short just to make sure we get to everything before the top of the hour. Thank you.
Got it, Sophie. I will speed through this. Hi again, everyone. I am excited to share a little overview of the MCURC Collective Impact Initiative, which I'm seeing so many familiar faces on here that are already actively involved. And I hope to recruit those of you who have not previously been involved to please join us. This is a really, really exciting initiative that is showing a lot of exciting progress. So just a quick overview of what is the Collective Impact Initiative. So this initiative really encompasses a few different things. One is it's a data collection and impact analysis with the intention really behind it of empowering our members with a deeper understanding of both their own food purchases as well as our collective food purchases as the MCURC. And so we want to understand both the health and environmental impacts of these purchases. We want to be able to establish metrics and set targets to measure our impact. We want to use this incredible research network in the MCURC to help test, iterate, and share solutions, and then creating annual reports and case studies that will highlight successful strategies across member institutions. And so I mentioned the protein portfolio. What do we mean by that? Well, I think as we're all probably aware, the menus have changed, as well as many leading researchers have acknowledged the important role that protein, and particularly shifts from animal proteins towards plant proteins, is going to play in enhancing both personal and planetary health for our students. And so through the menus of change principles, and by implementing these principles in our operations, we hope to see these types of shifts, and we will measure that through the Collective Impact Initiative through procurement as really a proxy of demonstrating what we buy is what we serve, and through the association also what our students will be eating. And so we mentioned that one of the important aspects of this initiative is to set targets so that we can collectively work towards improving our food purchases and our food operations, making them healthier, more sustainable. So in 2019, we as the MCURC set a collective target to reduce our food-related emissions by 25% by 2030 across all of our participating institutions. And so I just want to thank everyone quickly who participated in the last year's round. You see a lot of familiar faces here, but some incredible institutions that have been providing this procurement data, many of these who have been providing the data for 4 or 5 years. And so thrilled to show just the sheer scale of this initiative, over 60 million pounds of food across these 24 institutions. Here on the left, you can see the breakdown of food purchases by weight. And on the right, these are the contributions of each of these food categories, these protein portfolio categories, to our food-related emissions. So here you see the disproportionate impact, environmental impact of the more animal-based foods. And so, exciting, and we announced this for those of you that attended the all hands member meeting, but we are seeing a reduction in our food related emissions per pound of food that we purchase. So this intensity metric is our way, even during COVID when sales dropped and we were buying less food, this intensity metric allows us to continue to measure our progress over time. And so we are seeing incredible progress. In fact, in just over 3 years, we're about 40% to our goal of a 25% reduction by 2030. And just to say congratulations to everybody that's involved, although we know that just maintaining this and then continuing to make those reductions is still something that's going to require all of our collective effort. And so this equated to about 11% decrease in the pounds of carbon dioxide per pound of food purchased. That's our intensity metric. Some fun social math here is that's as many emissions as 45,000 people taking a round trip cross-country flight, and as much water as 218,000 people showering for 10 minutes a day for a year. So just huge, huge impact. And just to reiterate, you've seen this many times today, but we have incredible resources at our disposal to continue to implement these practices, these evidence-based practices that we know are going to help us shift the protein portfolio as really just a metric to help measure the progress of these different strategies, including the 2020 Early Learnings Report that will give you a much more in-depth overview of the background and history, as well as paths to progress around collective impact. So if this strikes your interest, please take a look at that document. Just to make a little plug that in June, we're going to be doing the next round of data collection. So just keep your eye on your MCURC emails for updates. If you have any questions in the meantime, please feel free to reach out to me. Please note that I am now at my Hopkins address, having transitioned into a new role, but still being a doctoral student at Johns Hopkins. And then just to plug, I know Abby mentioned this earlier, and we won't go too much into it because there's a lot of information in the MCURC emails that have gone out. But I am leading the University Procurement for Planetary Health Study, where we're basically taking this concept of procurement data as a metric that helps us evaluate the healthfulness and sustainability of our dining programs. And we're gonna blow it up. We're gonna go big, and we're gonna see what other things can we understand from this data about our food programs. We want to know what types of programs and initiatives are going to have the greatest influence on these metrics, and then exploring the broader environmental and health impacts of these types of shifts that we're trying to create. And so if you haven't already, expressed your interest in participating. This can also be your collective impact data for this year. So if you want to participate in collective impact, it's very easy to also participate in the study. Please just reach out to me with any questions. And with that, I will hand it back to Sophie.
Great. In our final minutes, our phenomenal community manager, Shannon Muntz, and Shara Oram, Director of Corporate Relations at CIA, will share just a bit about the day-to-day communication opportunities. So the floor is yours for the remainder of our presentation time. Anyone who needs to drop off at the hour, we understand. And if not, we have 30 minutes coming for all the questions that you ever wanted to ask. Shara and Shannon, over to you.
Thanks, Sophie. Let me just share my screen really quickly here. Can everyone see that?
Yes.
All right. So I just wanted to quickly go over some of the great resources that we have for community engagement. One of the biggest ones we have is our monthly news brief. That goes out every month. It went out yesterday. It's always just packed full of really great news, insights, highlights on our members, sponsors, research collaborators. We have updates on project information, all the resources that are coming out of our working groups, things like that, research information. So definitely look for that every month. It's always packed full of a lot of great information. And we're always wanting to make sure that we're featuring all of the great work that you all are doing. So if you have something you want to share, whether it's like news of something you're doing in your dining hall or on your campus, if you have a great recipe to share, send those to me at my email is smunts@stanford.edu, and we would love to spotlight you in the next newsletter. Then another resource we have for engagement is our MCURC LinkedIn page. And so this is a private community for our members, sponsors, research collaborators to share information about their programs, to encourage each other, to expand your networks, and just to kind of stay up to date on everything that we're doing in the MCURC. So if you have not joined our LinkedIn page, definitely do so. If you need the information or have any trouble finding it, you can email me. But if you just search MCURC on LinkedIn, it should come up. Yeah, and definitely join that, because we want to make it a really robust and useful place for all of you to kind of stay connected. So another resource we have is our MCURC engagement calendar. So this is a calendar for the entire year that has all of the dates for our working group calls, the town hall meetings that Sophie and Allison are doing with the executive chefs, the dining directors, and the nutrition and sustainability manager groups. It has the dates of all of the insights exchanges, so you'll know ahead of time when those are coming, and you can block time off to make sure that you can attend. We have the dates for the annual meeting, and then dates for other CIA conferences that we think you might be interested in. I'll drop the link to this in the chat. And then again, you can always email me if you can't find it. So another great tool we have, and this can be found on the resources page of our website, is the Menus of Change Principles Implementation Schedule. And this is a tool to help you integrate MOC principles into your campus activities and events. The tool is meant as a template. It has a lot of different events and holidays and things like that. And it kind of shows you the different ways that you can, and the different times that you can implement different MOC principles into things on your campus that may already be happening. So there's a tool in place. You can go like month by month. It shows you all kinds of different ways that you can tie in. So if you're looking at ways to expand how you're implementing MOC principles into your menus, this is a great resource to take a look at. And that, again, is on the resources page of our website. So another great resource for you all is the member portal. So on the On our website, if you go to members and then down here, you'll see a member portal that'll take you to a login page. It is password protected. Send me an email if you don't know that password. We typically give those passwords out to you as you are onboarded, but we know sometimes you may have lost it. Feel free to email me. This has a lot of information that we know members are always looking for. So in this portal, you can find all of our past newsletters. You can find a link to all of the past webinars and recordings, information from all of our past annual meetings, including meeting notes, slides, photos. We also have the annual calendar list linked here. You can find contact information for other members and sponsors. We have notes for all of our working group meetings, other research or information on research. We have our communications toolkit that has a lot of information that you can use to help promote MOC principles and the MCURC on your campus, like the MCURC overview. We have PowerPoint slides, individual principal infographics. So you can find a lot of really good information there to help you promote MCURC. So along with the member portal, we also have a sponsor portal, and I will turn this over to Shara to give a little bit of information on what is on the sponsor portal.
Thanks so much, Shannon. I'll be super quick because I know we are at the top of the hour, and Shannon called out a number of resources that are available in the member portal that are similarly available in the sponsor portal. So as you see here, sponsors will navigate there through the sponsor tab on the website, and there is a password to the sponsor portal that, again, if you have any trouble finding it, you can certainly feel free to email myself or my colleague, Jen Luna. On that sponsor portal, you'll find a variety of the information that Shannon shared. So Shannon, if you just click to the next slide, MCURC contact information so that you can reach out to individual MCURC members for a call to collaborate on a project or opportunity to perhaps visit campus, and an opportunity for MCURC specific engagements. We also have links for the LinkedIn group, past newsletters, webinars, as well as the annual meeting materials. And then specifically for sponsors, we also have a link to a Google Drive that has MCURC proud sponsor buttons and signage that you could use perhaps within other events or communications to showcase your alignment and support of the MCURC. If anyone has any questions on the sponsor portal resources, please don't hesitate to reach out to me at any time. And with that, I will hand it back to either Shannon or Sophie.
Yes, I'm happy to take it from here. Thank you both for that whirlwind tour. And I think we have come to the conclusion of all of the resources that we wanted to make you aware of. And now we can open it up for Q&A. This is really for any questions on anything that we've shared or anything that we haven't shared about what it means to be a member, sponsor, research collaborator, anyone who wants to be contributing. And we can go ahead and go back to the group gallery view so I can see anyone whose hands go up. You can use the raise hand function or indicate in the chat that you have a question. Okay, and if everyone is feeling shy, I will tell you the #1 most commonly asked question in MCURC history is, what is the difference between menus of change and the MCURC? So, have we answered that today is a real question. Allison, anything you want to elaborate? Rupa, is Rupa still here? No.
Rupa had to pop up, yeah.
But we did get that question a lot. If you want to address it, Allison, and I'm happy to elaborate too.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. So the menus of change, we see it as an ecosystem of thought leadership that is this foundation of the menus of change principles of healthy, sustainable, delicious menus. So it has a suite of resources. It has this annual summit. It's a partnership with the Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health, and is really a cross-sector, initiative, across the whole food service industry. And then the MCURC is specific to college and university sectors, really trying to accelerate the menus of change principles within college and university setting. Sophie, how did I do? What would you add to that?
I liked it. No, I think it's great. Exactly. And part of the thing to also keep in mind is that the MCRC has always had this unique pulse on the future of the industry because students are who we are feeding, and that has unique opportunity and responsibility in a way, right? To kind of share with the rest of the industry what are emerging trends, concerns, areas of interest, and also really also be able to not only learn from and sort of report out on, but actually shape the palates and preferences, the food identities of students who then go on to become customers, leaders, decision makers, consumers, which is not a term we really like to emphasize, but really using their purchasing power and hopefully, in the aggregate, the 15 million meals that we like to emphasize, 15 billion, excuse me, of our collective, over the collective lifetimes of our students is a huge opportunity to influence during that kind of period of identity formation. So that's one key element too. And the other aspect is that campus dining is also kind of a hotbed for innovation. And so it has this unique opportunity to really be kind of an accelerator for these changes, not just a signal of what's coming, but actually to, through efforts like the collective impact, to actually be shaping supply chains and shifting, regional food systems through kind of anchor institutions who are all, think about what we're doing collectively with our purchasing power and the signals that we're sending again there too. So I think that's hopefully helpful. Go back to gallery view. I think, yes, from Princeton. Please introduce yourself.
Sure. Hi, my name is Ijoma, and I work as Assistant Director for the Sustainability Initiative in Princeton. And I was told about this group through an operator here in campus dining who's very much a champion of sustainability. And I was wondering if you could shed a little bit more light on the Collective Impact Initiative. Just tell us a little bit more and what's required to participate. But I also want to say thanks. I mean, the resources shared here have been incredible. So I've enjoyed this.
It's wonderful to have you. And actually, that's a great tee up for our second most frequently asked question, which is what is the difference between collective impact and the Cool Food Pledge? So Jackie, I'll let you speak to the collective impact, and also we'll drop into the chat communication that we issued recently that really gets to that question, showing the complementary nature and shared origin story.
Thanks, Sophie. So yes, thank you so much for that question. And I just have to give a shout out because the Princeton team has been actively involved in collective impact for some time, the dining team. And so what it involves is I mentioned the protein portfolio and those food categories. And at its most basic level, it's essentially generating a report for a full year's worth of food purchases and separating out the purchases into those different categories of food. And then in partnership with using methodologies that we developed in partnership with the World Resources Institute, who also leads the Cool Food Pledge that Sophie referenced, what we have done historically is generated food-related emissions, both by category and for the entire set of food purchases over an entire year. Last year was the first year that we actually offered, if our participating universities wanted to provide the full data set of all food and beverage purchases, that we would actually analyze the full data set. I think I'm not sure what the situation is at Princeton, but I know a lot of universities now are looking at their Scope 3 emissions and the role that food plays in terms of the environmental footprint of the institution. And so we've partnered with many of the universities I mentioned in my slides to actually evaluate the food-related emissions of the entire data set of food purchases for the year. And in the study that I'm leading, we're kind of taking that to another level, and we're also looking at nutritional impacts of these foods, as well as looking at planetary health guidelines and trying to evaluate these data sets against what these guidelines are to help us develop some new metrics and new targets that might help us kind of conceptualize what shifts might need to occur to reach our goals. So yeah, and I think the Princeton team has been expressing interest in that study as well. So would love to continue to partner with the team at Princeton and anyone else who's interested on both collective impact as well as the upcoming study. Did that answer your question?
It did. Thank you. And we'll be in touch to learn more. I know Sarah has been involved in others on our team as well. Thank you.
Yeah, just please reach out anytime with questions. Thank you.
Okay, back to gallery view, please. I would love to see everyone hands who's got our next question. I don't see any hands up. I see one or two sponsors. I think we do also have Shara here. If there's questions for sponsors specifically, also happy to answer those. And then for research collaborators, it's a little bit case by case. I know we have Steve from LeanPath, but I think most others are members. All right. Well,
Mike, I see that. Hang on, we have questions from Mike and Matt. So Mike, over to you first.
Thanks. It's more of a comment and just sharing an update than a question, but there will be a question at the end. I think several of you know that we are using food in a different way than most people. We're using food as a way to tell the climate change story. And I just wanted to provide a brief update that this idea at all levels, adults and students, is really catching on. I mean, I was in Bloomberg last week. Fast Company was interviewing me. NBC News wants to do a short piece for their website. I've got 2 invitations to speak to audiences, both exceeding 10,000 participants potentially. We're actually going to do a documentary film, but we're also working on either a course for Cornell in their dining halls that would basically focus on using food as a way to help people understand what's changing in food, but then to respond, not just necessarily changes in diet, that's certainly part of it, but looking at bigger issues and how we can really bring about and challenge and confront climate change. So I just share that if there's anybody interested in partnering in some way, or the goal is to create this course and then share it with MCURC. So that's it. It was mainly an update and a handout if there's anybody interested in learning more or cooperating.
Great.
Partnering.
Yeah, if you can share your email in the chat for anybody who wants to get in touch on that. I appreciate you mentioning it. There was a second hand up, but now it's gone. Was it Matt? Tevin? Yeah, I thought so.
Hello.
My friends.
I just thought, what was your suggestion for the best way of sharing research that's happening on our campuses with the wider MCURC community?
Yeah, great question. I think we're always hungry for it in the newsletter, as you noted, at minimum, if it's something that is kind of a link and you just want it to be more FYI. The next best option would be to bring it forward to the MCURC, to Abby Martino, our MCURC Research Program Manager, and say, if you have a vision that it could be replicated in, and you actually want to sort of offer the study design as a plug and play multi-site kind of a research project. So if it's more just FYI, you know, here's what we've done, learn from it, like that very interesting taste focused study on oily fish, which I'm eager to read, then we can just kind of share those. You can share them on your own in the LinkedIn group anytime. You can send them to Shannon to feature in the newsletter on a cadence that makes sense. And then if it's more of a springboard for a future project, then you can share it with Abby and the Research and Education Working Group. Does that answer?
Perfect. Thank you.
Excellent. Those are the kind of questions we like, as we hope some wheels are turning. All right. Any last burning questions? We know you all are very busy. This was purely a space designed for the come one, come all questions that may have been on your mind. And we also recognize that we left 0 minutes for Q&A in the didactic portion. So wanted to just allow for that. Anything to clarify from all the resources and information that we threw at you? And if not, it sounds like you know who to contact. Allison, anything else? I think we can leave it here for now. Yeah. Okay, great. Well, thanks.
Well, quickly, I see Priscilla's waving her hand and she's showing us a book. So maybe she's
That's
wanting
Mike's
to.
book. She's just
Oh, that's
plugging
Mike's
book. Yeah.
Okay.
Very nice plug in for Mike's book. Love it. Great. Yeah. Yeah, no, I think this is a good stopping point. Sophie and I and Abby are available for any questions that come up. We hope to see many of you in June for the Menus of Change Summit. And I also failed to mention that we will have an MCRC networking breakfast too on the Thursday morning of that summit. So it's a nice way to connect with a lot of other fellow MCRC members who will be there in person. So thanks everyone so much. Thanks everyone for those who shared, all the different presenters who just really make this a huge collaborative team effort. So nice to see you all today. Have a great rest of your day and rest of your week.
All great to see you. Take care. We hope to see you in person.